Have you ever experienced seeing a face in a keyhole or a peculiar shape in a cloud? These experiences are not strange, but rather common. They are examples of pareidolia. Pareidolia is defined as a psychological phenomenon in which a vague and random stimulus, usually an image, is mistakenly perceived as a recognizable shape. The individual assigns organization and meaning to an ambiguous or unstructured stimulus. Examples of pareidolia include faces we see in the profile of a mountain or among flames burning in a fireplace. It's important to note that these are not pathological perceptions, quite the opposite. They constitute a splendid example of an anomalous mental experience, where the term anomaly, in this case, does not imply pathology, illness, or morbidity. In short, pareidolia is what is called a perceptual distortion, meaning that the perception of an object or figure appears different from what it would be considering only the physical configuration of the stimulus. Perceptual distortions are only possible through the activity of sensory organs. These perceptual distortions occur when a stimulus that exists outside of us and is accessible to the sensory organs is perceived differently from what one might expect. The anomaly lies in the fact that the physical characteristics of the world of stimuli are perceived in a distorted way. Essentially, our brain shows us an image that we interpret subjectively, recognizing in its shapes that associate it with something else. We focus our attention on certain aspects of that image and not on others. For example, we look at a stain on a wall and see faces in it. The interesting thing is that our brain alerts us that our interpretation is actually distorted at that moment. However, even though we know those stains on the wall aren't real faces, the perception of the face remains, and we even end up having a parallel visual experience, because from that moment on, we recognize both the inanimate object, the stains, and the face. If we search online, we can easily find photographs of explosions, the surface of another planet, a cloud, or just a point on a wall, in which people claim to see religious images, extraterrestrials, faces, animals. This innate ability is probably due to the need our prehistoric ancestors had to recognize a potential predator camouflaged in nature. After all, being able to connect a few visible elements to identify a fierce animal was necessary for the survival of the species. To confirm this, some studies have shown that neurotic and negatively inclined individuals are more prone to manifest pareidolia. The reason seems to be that these individuals are more attentive to dangers, and therefore more likely to spot something that isn't there. It also appears statistically that women are more prone to see faces that aren't there. This could be linked to the fact that they have a better ability to recognize emotions through deciphering facial expressions. We all still possess this tendency and use it daily, often without realizing it. But beyond the explanations, it's certainly fun to try to recognize as many faces as possible in the objects around us. It's a simple and effective exercise in creativity, suitable for all ages. Let's give it a try. Here are a series of images. Do you see what we saw? In this first photo, what can you see? A chubby hamster? Or just a simple muffin? If you pay attention in this case, it's easy to recognize a newborn baby breastfeeding from its mother in the shape formed by the two rocks on the right. A tender and touching image. This might not be immediately obvious, but by focusing on the figure in the center, you'll notice a dragon with spread wings outlined in the mist. The image in this photo is all about laughter. Look at the surprised expression the handle cover plate takes on. The wide grin with 32 teeth and fiery eyes in this room, doesn't it remind you of the Cheshire Cat from Disney's Alice in Wonderland? An orange with a ballet dancer's silhouette. Look at how the hair and face stand out from the rest of the body. This one is so straightforward that it's difficult to recognize what the photo actually depicts. 2 Yorkshire Terriers or white flowers. Those peppers in the refrigerator don't seem to be having a good time. With their alarmed and frightened expressions, it almost seems like they're screaming for help. Whipped cream and chocolate mousse or a woman's breast. If it weren't on a spoon, it would be really hard to figure out the truth. This last photo is probably one of the most remarkable images. A dragon's head in the woods, or just a log with an unusual tilt. As mentioned, despite being an innate human ability, the types of objects identified also greatly depend on past experiences and personal visual culture. It's no coincidence, for example, that faces of Christ or the Madonna appear on walls, trees, ironing boards, and even on slices of toast only to particularly devout individuals. And it's no coincidence that devotees of Islam recognize the name of Allah in the shapes of clouds. In practice, we often see what we want to see. Based on what we recognize in a blotch, we can understand something about our personality, beliefs, and convictions. And it's based on this principle that Swiss psychiatrist Hermann Rorschach defined a test, bearing his name, in which the observer must communicate what images they see in 10 symmetrical ink blots. But regardless of the psychological implications, it's interesting to know how some cases of pareidolia have gained notoriety over the years, precisely due to the cultural context in which they originated and the religious or paranormal associations they evoke. Among the most famous and popular examples of pareidolia is the face on Mars, or Cydonia face, a detail from a photo taken by the Viking 1 probe in orbit around the Red Planet in 1976. It was interpreted as evidence of an ancient Martian civilization, but in reality, it was a play of shadows created by Martian heights that almost reproduced human-like features. Then there's Mount Circeo, which from certain angles can resemble a face turned upwards. There's also the case of a Florida woman who, in 2004, while preparing toast for breakfast, noticed that the face of Jesus had appeared on one side of it. The toast was later bought by a casino for approximately $28,000. Equally intriguing and unsettling is the case of the faces of Belms in Spain. These are faces that appear on the floor of a Spanish house in Belms de la Moraleda and are attributed to the buried individuals from when there was a cemetery in that location before the house was built. That concludes today's video. We invite you to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to leave a comment below and keep watching for more exciting videos to come.